And, here we are, Charean, a week away from when the Washington Post article regarding 15 former female employees of the Washington football team had claimed they were sexually harassed. And this past weekend operated as a hard reset. We get into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and there's nothing. I thought maybe FedEx would issue a statement to the extent that FedEx founder Fred Smith is anxious to maybe nudge Daniel Snyder out. And when you consider that FedEx issued a statement over the name, would the sponsors do anything? Would they say anything? Now, that could all still come. But I'm surprised that here we are a week after what was a pretty damning report, not nearly as damning as the online speculation would have suggested, but it was still pretty damn bad. I don't want to say it's almost like it never happened, but it sort of feels like it never happened.
Yeah, we're not talking about it for sure. They did hire another female in the organization in football ops, and I do think they're making some good moves, but yeah, this thing just disappeared very quickly, and I know it's going to bubble back up when the attorney starts getting involved and we start seeing the report of what is found. But it is amazing that how quickly we've quit talking about this report, because it is damning to the organization and what we've heard so far. And there may be even more to come out on this when they start getting into it and looking within the organization.
But Charean, let's play this forward a little bit. You've got an outside lawyer who has no subpoena power, who has no ability to compel cooperation from anyone who is not currently employed by the team. You've got 15 former employees of the franchise. There's no guarantee that one of them, two of them, all 15 of them will even cooperate. They've got no obligation to cooperate. The only obligation they have under their severance agreements is to keep their mouths shut pursuant to their NDAs. I made the point yesterday. Instead of NDAs, what these deals should have in them, whether it's a standard severance agreement that is signed when employment ends or a specifically negotiated settlement of complaints that were made internally, and maybe there's going to be litigation and this is the way to avoid litigation, there should be a clause in those agreements that says that the person will cooperate with any investigations that may unfold in the future conducted by the organization or by the NFL, that there is an obligation as part of that compensation received in exchange for what typically is an NDA. It's an agreement that you will disclose within the right setting and the right circumstances, because Beth Wilkinson, the lawyer who's been hired by Daniel Snyder, may have a hell of a time getting anyone to talk. And how hard, here's the other thing too, and this is why I'm skeptical of an investigation being conducted by a lawyer who's being paid by Daniel Snyder. There are ways that you can still get the information. You can be persistent. You can be extra charming. You can be creative. You can stay outside of someone's house. You can just keep trying and trying and trying. If you really don't want to know what the person says, it's pretty easy to not find out what the person is going to say. You make one phone call, they express some reluctance, you say, thank you very much for your time, you hang up the phone, and you cross them off the list. So it's going to be interesting to see how aggressive this investigation is if and when former employees decline to talk. Maybe Bruce Allen, who's going to be one of the key employees and potentially one of the persons who this former culture is blamed upon, maybe he refuses to talk. I mean, if you have key former employees who say, I'm not helping you, I'm not doing Daniel Snyder any favors, you're not going to be able to conduct a meaningful investigation. So there is a chance that this just becomes one of those things that as time goes by and we focus on other stories, Charean, we just will think about it from time to time. Like the Patriots Bengals taping of the sideline before the penalties were announced on the same night that the Patriots signed Cam Newton, which was the perfect time to announce the signing of Cam Newton. But we just kind of forget about it until we're reminded of it, until there's some reason for it to land on the radar screen again. It just kind of goes away. I got a feeling that to a certain extent, this is just going to kind of go away. And it's going to take, I think, diligence and persistence on the part of the media to get updates, to get, we're never going to, they're not going to make the final report available. They're going to say this deals with sensitive personnel matters and it cannot be disclosed publicly. I guarantee you that's what they're going to say. So I think they'll be emboldened by the fact, Charean, that over the course of the past week, it's all kind of already went away. I'm not real confident that that this is ever going to come back. And if it does, it's going to be more of a footnote than a centerpiece.
Well, fortunately, there's people like you, Mike, to bang that drum, and you'll continue to do that and continue to press for answers. And so that's the fortunate thing, and that's why we need the media, frankly. People say we don't need the media. We do need the media because things like this will go away. The Dallas Mavericks went through this same thing 2.5 years ago, and they've come out the other end. They did all the right things. Mark Cuban did absolutely all the right things. They went internally and looked. He said he cried for days. And I don't know that Dan Snyder has cried for days, but Mark Cuban didn't like that in his organization, that his business ops had problems just like Washington's going through. And he hired Cent Marshall, who was a very influential businesswoman, worked for AT&T, and he hired her to head the organization. And they cleaned up the organization. They gave $10 million to various women's groups and did a lot of the right things. And I think now if you look at the Dallas Mavericks, they've come out the other end of this. No one's talking about this. When they do talk about it, it's like, hey, they've done the right things within the organization. It's a good organization to work for now. And I know this. Washington has the right man in charge in Ron Rivera to clean this up if Dan Snyder continues to let him be the voice and the face of the organization.
Oh, and he definitely is. He's going to be on CBS this morning to discuss the situation with the Washington football team with Gayle King today. So, it has crossed over into a mainstream news story, and the team is treating it that way. And maybe they are in the process of figuring out how to rebuild a franchise that has not been very good on the field and has had these issues that need to be addressed, need to be fixed. They're getting there with the name. They apparently are going to get there with the culture. And then fans ultimately hope that they get there with the product on the football field.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.